You see what? It's always a joy to have art. All right, so we've run a little bit long, but I promised we'd have time for question and answers with the distinguished panel we have here. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask while we're all still gathered? Keller.
Hi. This is for Dana and for Keith, actually. I'm wondering if you've thought about bringing agritourism into your activities, both as an economic development project and then also as a way to get people to move around the state and see the particularly oyster aquaculture that
We do partner with the Florida Agritourism Association, but I think it is all about marketing, right? So I think that ecotourism plays a little bit more broadly, and it can subsume that as well. It can include our agricultural areas, it can include our natural areas, but I think if we talk about sustainable ecotourism, we're going to get a lot more buy-in from the people that are looking to do that sort of vacation.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
We talked about the aquaculture giving the natural oyster beds a chance to restore. Are we confident that they will restore given the climate changes and the freshwater issues that we're experiencing?
Well, the oysters need some help. I mean, all around Florida, you've had dredging, you've got pollution, you've got a lot of things going on. In a lot of areas, there's nothing for the oysters to stick to, the larvae to stick to. So that's why we've developed these domes, which really are no more than a vehicle for the oysters to grab a hold of. So we have to do something different because what we're doing now is not working.
Anyone else? Jesus.
All my life I eaten oysters. As a kid, I used to just dive into the reef in my country and bring the oyster out, and my sister would bring the lemons and we open it and eat them. But to hear all this stuff, all these wonderful things that oysters do, and how they're amazing to catch all these germs and all these diseases that are there, and thinking like, wow, I'm going to eat this thing next. That kind of scares me now. What kind of wonder this thing is that, I mean, I'm not going to get sick from it. I've never gotten sick actually. But it's kind of scary to listen to all these things like how it's like a filter. I mean, it's just basically what it is.
So your question is,
what is in this creature that is so magnificent that you won't allow them to get sick from eating?
got it. Well, if I may, I'll tackle that. Because I think in this, what we know is going to be an award-winning documentary, they touched upon it. There's a magic in an oyster. It's one of the first food sources we have. There's science that talks about how it's connected to our brain and it's brain food. And there's a magic that it takes to convert these nutrients. You can call them pollutants, but they're not really. They're nutrients. Too much of anything becomes a bad thing, no matter how good it is. And the great beauty of aquaculture is these oysters are grown at the surface. So it's not sediment that they're filtering. It's clean algae. These are vegetarians. And we all know that vegetarians lead a healthier life. We've taken them from off the bottom where the sediment is, maybe the less pure things are, and put them right into the salad bar. Okay? And it's all you can eat time down here in our state because we don't have that despicable thing the North has, which is called winter. All right? They grow 12 months out of the year wonderfully here. So the aquaculture oyster is the healthiest and most productive creature, I believe, on the planet.
Well,
What else?
These are different. These oysters are not harvesting. These are just...
Right. These are worker bees, okay? These are here to filter the water. They are on the bottom. They've got sediment. This is the same stuff that built Apalachicola, where there was 100 million oysters harvested per year, just up to what, maybe 6, 7 years ago, where there's now less than 5 million coming out of the water. But these, you put these back and they clean the water so that we hope aquaculture can go in on the other side because they've done the heavy lifting to clean the water. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there a clearinghouse or other central hub for more information about oysters? You know, we hear from representatives from the state of Florida, and the government, and we've also got, you know, individual entities. We have the farmed oystermen and the natural oystermen. Is there one kind of centralized location, or maybe like a conference or a meeting, even a website that has kind of a centralized system for distributing information on oysters in Florida?
That's a really good question. I think, you know, for aquaculture oysters, the Department of Agriculture is the house. You know, I kind of walked through the programs that we have. For wild oyster production and restoration activities related to wild oysters, FWC would be the appropriate agency, and then there's, you know, for restoration activities, DEP is involved in that as well with monitoring. So it is spread amongst multiple agencies within the state of Florida, but there is a lot of work between those agencies to be working together because, you know, after BP there was a lot of money funneling into oyster research and restoration, and now that's kind of slowed. And the agencies and the universities that are involved in restoration are really talking to each other a lot to make sure they're not all doing the same thing, and that they're working together to make sure that their data is congruent, you know, that it can be data collected by DEP and FWC. They're collecting it in the same form in the same way so that it can be applied. So we can get more bang for our buck, you know, for the research dollars that we get and the work that we're doing. But right now there's not a specific clearinghouse that would handle that. I think DEP is probably the lead.
And I guess what I'm talking about even more so than between like interagency, but the commercial side with the governmental side, right? So for instance, if you're a person who really loves oysters, cares about oysters, and you want to know where can I go to get a bushel of oysters in the state of Florida, is that resource available?
I can't think of where that would be. That would be a really interesting project. I know Dixie County and Levy County, and I was just talking to Dana a little bit about this, they did a shellfish trail for Dixie and Levy, and it's this great map, and it's this great ecotourism approach to oyster aquaculture and wild oyster resource, and it just kind of helps people learn where can they see aquaculture, where can they see reefs, and then where can they purchase those products. And we've kind of been talking, Keller and I had talked about it before, but why don't we have something like that in the Panhandle as well? Right. Or for the whole state? Why don't we have that resource available? So we'll definitely be talking with Dana a little bit more about that, but having that not only for Floridians, but also for our visitors.
Yes, ma'am.
First, thank you very much. This has been an excellent lunch. Thank you. The question is, when do you anticipate the documentary to be released?
We're hoping to finish filming if we stay on schedule. We will premiere the documentary in Los Angeles and New York in September of this year, so that it is Academy eligible for consideration for 2021.
Thank you.
Peter?
Thank you, Rob. Hearing all this stuff, it's not the first time I've heard it, but every time I hear it, I'm surprised and shocked at how powerful oysters are, both economically but also environmentally. I wonder, given all the talent that we have organized today here, are there any programs available to provide a pathway towards entrepreneurship in oyster ranching in Florida or otherwise that would really engage students that are coming out of high school that might not be going to college, or people that are graduating college and want to get involved in the industry as well? Because it seems like what I'm hearing is it's incredibly impactful, again, profitably, but also environmentally. It's just a great thing to get people engaged with.
Sure. So we are approaching that for aquaculture in general. CRP is such a great success story because it started in the schools. It started in 4-H. and they came home and told their parents about it, and then they got into clam aquaculture and supported it. So one of the things that we do, we've got staff that go out to schools to educate students about aquaculture, and then they can come home and talk to their parents. I think what Art's doing with teaching kids to cook is fantastic, because a lot of the reasons people don't consume seafood at home is because they're afraid to cook it, they don't know how. So I think educating more people on how to prepare and consume seafood is a great idea. We're looking at we've applied to some grants, but we're also doing some internal projects to look at getting aquaculture into classrooms. That's kind of hard with oysters. Saltwater tanks are a little bit trickier than freshwater tanks, but we're trying to do some small systems that a teacher can teach students in the classroom about oyster aquaculture. Then that translates into community colleges and other programs, and then also at the high school level you can get a certificate. You can be proficient. I think the plant growers have their own certificates, so you can come out of high school with a certificate from FNGLA that you're certified as a grower. You can go to work for a nursery or something like that. And we're looking to do something similar with aquaculture. Aquaculture is just tricky because it's so broad. It encompasses so many different product types, but that's definitely something that we're looking at trying to enhance.
May I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
Yeah, a follow-up question, I guess one was Keith, but in terms of providing financial infrastructure for oyster ranchers or prospective oyster ranchers, Rob and I talked a lot, and he's talked about a little bit of this, but again, given the talent in the room, are there existing or developing government subsidized loans or anything of that ilk that are going to help catalyze oyster ranching in Florida?
Well, yes, there are. The Small Business Administration offers, they offer fixed interest rate loans for small businesses that are going into aquaculture. They guarantee a portion of the loan, up to 90% of the loan, which makes it a lot more feasible for banks to roll the dice and loan money to those farmers. And then also USDA has a program where they provide another guarantee program specifically for entrepreneurs and business owners in aquaculture.
Anyone else? All right. Before I close it down, I just want to leave you with a thought. Our Congressman, Dr. Dunn, I met with him not long ago, and he pulled me aside after a panel meeting and said, "Who are you working with for funding from the federal government?" It's above my pay scale, but I said, we're working with the same agricultural department that we work with on a state basis. He says, are you getting any activity from Homeland Security? I said, no, and I don't get it. He said, well, 2045, we're not going to have enough food to feed everyone the way things are going now. It's really hard to govern a people who are hungry. We need to do something to make sure there's going to be enough food. And he said, you said that we get 30 times more protein from an acre of water than we do from an acre of land. And we've got more farmable water in our state than any other state in the South. We need to do something with that, and I'm going to go to work on it. I just want you to think about that, okay? Our little oysters are that important to everyone's future moving forward. Kelly?
Also, Art made a very good point about we need to protect our water here in
Yes.
Florida. And what's being done to fight for our rights here in Florida, since we're so dependent upon water, it's frightening. I mean, native Floridians here.
The equalizer system that's gone up in the well water.
Well, education, like you say, enlightenment, and that's part of this conversation, and I appreciate everyone being here. Hopefully this will be a ripple that can turn into a wave if you help it move forward. I would like to thank Barry Shields and his staff here at the Governor's Club for making this opportunity available. Chusha, good luck.
Thank you.
You have our vote. Portia, Charlie, Bob, Keith, Chef Art, thank you. And Dana Young had to go, but we appreciate everyone stopping by. Y'all enjoy oysters. Know what an impact you make every time you eat an aquaculture oyster for economics, environment, and eats. Thank you very much.